I know that there are these pronouns I should maybe be putting on my LinkedIn. I mean, I've seen the pronouns that other people use. All I really know about this is what it basically is, and that I should be more aware of the life experiences that transgender people have so that I could treat them appropriately. So I guess it's for selfish reasons today that I'm doing this podcast. And I have a special guest here who's going to teach us what financial advisors need to know about working with transgender people. And I'm happy to welcome Kira Keaton to the show. Kira, welcome.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Yes. So, Kira, what is your experience being a transgender person?
Well, I mean, I'm just like anybody else. And my experience, though, is it's probably I don't want to say it's like the quintessential experience because everybody's different, but being trans is like knowing something's different with you and knowing that there are other people telling you that you should act a certain way and talk a certain way and sound a certain way, dress a certain way, etc. And all of those things are not you. You don't want to talk like that. You don't want to dress like that. You don't feel like that, to the point of even, hey, I don't like things that are on or parts of my body, for example. I wish that they weren't there. And you get to a point in your life. I mean, I'm almost 38 at the end of the year, so it took me a long time to get here.
Are you a Sagittarius or a Scorpio?
Sagittarius.
Sagittarius, I am. What if we have the same birthday? That'd be so cool. Okay.
Yeah, middle of December.
Okay. No, yeah. We do not have this. You might have my son's birthday though, but okay. Anyway, so, but let me just dissect that for a little bit if we could. Yeah. And by the way, Kira, thank you so much for being here with us and for enlightening us about all of this. I know sometimes it's hard to talk about these things.
Yes.
What gender identity were you born into?
That's the first thing. So my sex assigned at birth is male. My gender identity assigned at birth was also male, right? We have come to have an understanding that sex, which is more than actually just XX and XY. I'm a former US military medical professional. There's actually, I was, yes, United States Navy for 5 years. I'm an honorably discharged disabled veteran, actually. Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I got hurt twice. So
yes. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for your service. I didn't even know that. Did you have that on your LinkedIn page?
Yeah, it's down at the bottom. Yeah. I tend to keep it a little bit down there, but yeah, I was a medical professional in the United States Navy for 5 years. Got hurt twice and got an honorable discharge, thankfully. So, but even in medical science, no one is trying to say, for example, that sex isn't a thing that exists. It does, right? That's true. Sex obviously exists. What we're trying to get people to understand and educate people is that identity and expression are not necessarily tied to that biological sex. And that biological sex is not necessarily just XX and XY. For example, a lot of people don't know what mosaicism is. They don't know what we call mixed gonadal dysgenesis is. They don't know.
What are those terms? I'm sorry. See,
they're medical terms that I'm just kind of flying. Basically, they're what we call disorders of sexual development, DSDs, in which like people have different chromosomal pairings, right? You can have a human being that has 45X, a single X chromosome, for example, and instead of like XX or XY, you can have somebody who has triple XY. And a lot of these chromosomal pairings are not rare. Like you get 1 out of every 1,000 births. There are 7 billion people on the planet, right? And so it's just trying, like, the big thing is like trying to get people to understand that being trans isn't an ideology, right? This isn't to go at you. It's not a movement. It's not an ideology. It's just trying to get people to understand that, like, hey, this is who I am. Please just treat me like a normal person. Like, just be good to me. Yeah. And I guess if we want to say it's like a movement part, the movement part would just be trying to get people to be willing to be educated or to listen about like what you're doing right now. Like just listen to us about the problems that we're facing and what we're going through, and why we just want people to just see us as like normal people. You know, hormone therapy, for example, changes quite a lot. You know, I went from no chest to a C cup in 2 years. So, you know, for example.
Kira, can you tell me,
Mm.
how did you, so you were born
Male, yeah.
male,
Assigned male at birth. Yeah.
assigned at male at birth.
Yeah.
How did you transform into a new gender identity? When did you do it? How long? When, tell me what that experience was. When did it happen?
I knew something was different with me when I was 9, actually, a long, long time ago. However, I grew up in a
Well,
cult.
you consciously knew that, but you probably subconsciously.
I didn't have the language. I probably knew something subconsciously much earlier than that, but I knew at 9/10 years old, I could distinguish that the things girls were doing, I liked, and the things boys were doing, I didn't. And
hold on. Did anybody in your family acknowledge this?
I grew up in a cult. And my parents were very, 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 very hardcore Christian and religious. So it was acknowledged in so much as this is not a thing that you are allowed to explore because it goes against God.
Okay.
So I had to push things down drastically, and so try to be what everybody wanted me to be. It's basically like trying to demand that someone who is gay be straight, right, and make them live a life that they hate and they don't want to live. And I had to do that for most of my life, especially being in the military. I served during Don't Ask, Don't Tell, so that was horrible. And I would say about 5-6 years ago, I kind of got to a breaking point where
early 30s. You're in your early 30s.
Yes, early 30s. Yeah. About 5-6 years ago, early 30s. Yeah. I got
you're
to a
out of the
breaking.
military at that point.
Yes.
You're consulting, working.
I'm married. My wife's an Australian. I have a little one already at that point. My second little one, actually. And I kind of just reached a point in my life where it was like, everything was wrong. My body was wrong. How I saw myself was wrong. How I sounded was wrong. How I looked was everything. I hated everything. I just hated everything. I hated my hair. I hated how I sound. I hated how I looked. I hated my body. I hated how I had to dress because it was how people demanded. I hated that people demand that I go into the men's bathroom when I'm super uncomfortable around men and I don't want to go in the men's bathroom. But then if I go into the women's bathroom, someone's going to attack me. So like, I just came to this point in my life where it's like, I can't do this anymore. This isn't me. And I'm going to start my transition. And I came out. And it did not go well.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So you're married, you're working, and one day you just say, I'm going to identify as a woman.
I mean, it took a little bit more than that, but basically, yeah. There was a day where I woke up and, I'd been having like nightmares and lots of panic and anxiety and depression and lots of time spent crying and being upset all the time and not being able to explain to my wife why. And basically, yeah, one day I got up out of bed and went to talk to her, and it didn't go well. I mean, but you just sort of you come to the conclusion, like, you can't continue living the way everybody else wants you to live. And it's not a decision. Like, I didn't choose to be trans. I am, which a lot of people don't get that part. Like, people don't choose to be gay. They either are or they aren't.
It didn't go well, and I imagine there was a lot that went along with that, in terms of emotional changes to family structure, maybe physical changes. What happens next?
Well, not everybody's experience is the same as mine. Thankfully, my spouse and I are still married and still together. She decided to stay. and you know, I still live in the house, and obviously we're still married, so everything, it turned out fine eventually. But my wife is straight. She sees me as a woman. She says that she has a wife. Our daughter says that she has two moms. But you know, things did change a little bit, obviously, you know. But she's actually become like very protective of me now, and doesn't like, if we're walking down the street and somebody hurls slurs or whatever, she's probably going to say something about it. So you know,
That's wonderful.
yeah, it turned out
That's, I
okay. Yeah,
mean, that is a blessing,
it
really,
is.
that this is the kind of thing that really could tear a marriage apart.
Yes.
But what a rock solid marriage you probably have now. Like,
Well, I think the statistic is something like 85 to 86% of all marriages end when a trans person comes out. It's almost 9 out of every 10 marriages end whenever a trans person comes out to a cisgender individual, which
okay, so just define this for my listeners here.
mm.
Cisgender.
So cis and trans are chemistry terms. Cis means on this side of, and trans means on that side of. And basically what cis and trans mean is you are cisgendered if you identify and express with the sex that you were assigned, right? And you're trans if you don't. So it's like, it's not like, we're not trying to like put people into boxes or anything. It's just like, it's easy that way to explain to people. If you were born a woman and you identify as a woman and you express as a woman and you're completely okay with that, you don't have like any major dysphoria or dysmorphia or anything, then you're cis.
Wait, so what is exactly dysphoria?
Dysphoria is, imagine being almost in like extreme mental, emotional, and physical pain just by looking in the mirror and seeing your body, and you hate it that much. Like to the point that you probably don't want to be alive anymore. So like body dysphoria, body dysmorphia, these things, like you hate your body, and to the point that it you feel disgusted in your own skin. Basically, you don't like everything about you. Some people it's worse. The most dysphoric thing about me is my voice. I hate sounding like a guy. I realize I still do. I wish I didn't. I hate it. You know, if I could have surgery to change it so I sounded more feminine, I would. I probably can.
Are there those surgeries?
I think so, but they're also very dangerous. Like doing like laryngeal like surgeries and stuff is very dangerous because it could damage your vocal cords. So like, if I could do it and I knew for a fact it would be completely safe and fine, I would do it. Put that caveat there. But yeah, like dysphoria is just this, the way I explain it is just deep discomfort and suffering and pain at just looking in the mirror and seeing you, and what the mirror is showing you is not what you see, right? It's like looking in the mirror. Imagine looking in the mirror and it being a completely different person, but you know who you are, right? So like imagine tomorrow you wake up and you look completely different.
Right. If I would look in the mirror and I saw a man.
Yes.
Right? Like,
but that's not you. And you know that's not you, right?
I'd be like, whoa,
right? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
Okay.
So like, yeah,
so you started. So after you started this transformation, did you do hormones or?
Mm-hmm. It took a couple years. I had to go through the Veterans Affairs Hospital to do everything because I don't have civilian insurance. I just have to go through the VA for everything.
VA.
Yeah, the Veterans Affairs Hospital. So it took a few years, unfortunately. Like I had to jump through a whole bunch of hoops and like talk to psychologists and therapists and blood work because I had some heart problems they were concerned about, even though estrogen is a cardioprotective, which is, you know, whatever.
The medical community
yes.
advise when they want to.
Yes. You know,
totally get that. Like I had 4 kids starting at the age of 36. I had my first kid, and the older I got, it was always like, this is so dangerous. Like we have to have like you have to go to the doctor like 3 times a day. It was like, they were a little ridiculous. Oh,
Yeah, it can be.
right. Okay. So,
Yeah.
all right. So here you are, you did the therapy. And then what's it like emotionally being trans in the world when you're now visibly trans? Right? What's it like? On a daily basis, are there conflicts, or do you find people to be more or less understanding?
On the internet, in the spaces that I deal with, because I
Going to the
choose,
grocery store, going
yeah,
to get gas, going to your kid's school, going to the bowling alley.
it's hard every day. Every day is hard because I don't look like a woman. I don't pass, which is a very toxic thing to demand people look and dress a certain way to fit, gender roles and stereotypes. But at the end of the day, I just have that self-awareness to know that I don't still look the way that I want. I get slurred a lot. And I wish that I didn't. It makes me like very uncomfortable. Basically, I haven't left the house in a few years. I really don't go out unless I have to. So like my wife and I went out to dinner last weekend for the first time in like 18 months. Because when we're going out to dinner, I have to watch what I drink because I can't even get up and go to the bathroom. Because if I do, the bathroom that I'm going to want to go into is not the one that people want me to go into. And they're going to say that I'm just a man in a dress and I'm only going into that bathroom to assault people or whatever. When can I please just go to the bathroom? Right? Can I just go to the bathroom and come back?
You have to somehow wait until there's nobody in the bathroom.
Or I don't go at all until I get home.
In Penn Station, they have, I forget what would be the term for it, like a
Gender neutral.
Gender neutral bathroom.
Yeah. Gender neutral bathroom.
How often is it that you find those?
Not often enough. Sometimes I use like the family bathrooms too. Like if, the ones where like the family goes in and there's changing stations and stuff.
Oh, I know all about that. I have 4 kids. I use those, right? Yeah.
And it's easier, for example, if like, let's say my spouse and little one and I are at IKEA, for example, and they have like family bathrooms, then I just use the family bathroom, and it's easier that way, So like I've put myself in physical pain and like, just because I was too terrified that I would get into some sort of fight or somebody would attack me. And I just want to go to the bathroom, right? Like this is this whole huge thing that is, statistically not proven at all. Matter of fact, trans people are far more likely to be the victims of sexual assault and violence than they are to do it to people that aren't trans.
Right. Yeah.
So like,
yeah.
Every day, I'm worried, am I going to run into the wrong person at the wrong time? And they're going to, misgender me and I'm going to politely correct them. And then, are they going to shoot me? Like living in America, we had a trans woman, for example, in Puerto Rico that went into the bathroom at McDonald's, came out and a guy dumped all 15 rounds into her while yelling and screaming slurs, just gunned her down in the street, because man in a dress trying to assault women or whatever. Matter of fact, this year is a record-breaking year for the number of trans people murdered specifically just for being trans. We're at 48, I think, this year, 48 trans people murdered in the United States, which people might not think is a lot, but when you're less than 1% of the population by a wide margin, it does tend to add up. So like my daily routine is to just not engage with people. Like if I'm going to get gas, I just want to get in and get out. I don't want to talk to anybody. If we're going out to dinner, it is, yeah. It's easier if my wife and little one are with me, because then people are much less likely to start something because there's a 9-year-old standing next to me, and like, why would you want to, attack me in front of a child? And my wife is older and a little bit bigger than me, so it's like it's better if I'm with the family. But if I'm by myself, I am trying to not engage with anybody as much as humanly possible. Like if I get gas, I don't want to go inside at all. If I go to get something to eat, I'm going through the drive-through. Like I don't want to engage with people because it's just too much every day, all day, to try and get
Okay.
people to, just understand I'm a human being. Please just let me be. And that's what 99.99% of trans people want is we're human beings. This is just who we are. Just leave us alone and let us be. And it's hard. It's hard. I just wish people would listen and be, just treat me like a human being, just be nice, but they don't. So that's not the world I live in.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
It's made
just awful. It sounds just awful.
it is. It's made it very difficult in my specific career as well. Like, working in the games industry over the last few years, um, has made it so that I have to be concerned about what companies I apply to because, I don't know if they have, rules and regulations that's like, hey, if you like are mean to this person, do I get to say anything about it or not? Especially being my specific specialty in the games industry is I'm a community and media relations manager. I'm a communications director. And that usually means I'm the face of the company, because that's what community managers do. And I've had a few studios that are like, yeah, we don't want to deal with you, because you being trans means,
Kira, aren't there federal protections?
yeah, try proving it though. And also taking somebody to court when you don't have any money. That's the thing, right? Try proving that you have to prove they're discriminating
Right.
against
No,
you, right?
I understand.
And then you have to have a lawyer and you have to take them to court. Where's the money? Like, I'm unemployed. I've been unemployed for 2 years. So, it's the issue of trying to prove that people are being discriminatory. And if you can't prove it, then, if you talk to a hiring manager and they just tell you to your face, like, hey, sorry, we don't want to deal with this. Are you recording the conversation? Can you prove that that's what they said? No. So it's been rough. It's been rough. It's been very, very, very rough all around. And that's why I was really interested in having this conversation with you. So, yeah.
What is an example of an interaction or a way of interacting with you as a trans person that you have felt was positive and you were comfortable with?
When people, I will say,
you have to think hard about that.
yeah. When people use the right name and they use the right pronouns, right? Because I'm going to go out on a limb here and make a big, huge assumption that yours are she, her, right? People just address you as she and her, right?
Right.
Right. They when they're talking about Sarah, they use she and her, like, yeah, she's over there. Yeah, this is hers, right? Let's just that's the same thing for me, right? When people talk about Kara, where's Kara? Oh, she's over there. Wait, don't you mean he? No, I mean she is over there. Like when people use my name and they use the pronouns that I wish to be, pronouns exist in English and have for hundreds and hundreds of years, and we use them every day. It's when people do that, it's great. It feels great. It's what we would consider like euphoric, right? It feels fantastic to have people use the right name, use the right pronouns, and just treat you like a normal human being. And I have had a lot of really good examples of, sometimes it's nice out and about, when somebody says ma'am or miss or whatever, or when someone says sir and you correct them and they're like, oh, I'm sorry. And then it's not a big scene. It's not a big drama. They're just like, oh, I apologize. And they move on. And they do as you ask them to do. Those are really good, and, when people are supportive, when they defend you, if somebody's like being discriminatory or being abusive to you, those things are really nice. For example, you reaching out and wanting to learn more, I thought was really awesome on your part. So,
My listeners to this podcast are basically financial advisors.
Mm.
money managers, private bankers, insurance agents, et cetera.
Mm.
What would you say to the financial community? And I already have one idea in mind about how I'm going to make changes in my own business.
Mm.
What would you say about changes to be made by the financial community to be more welcoming and accepting of trans people?
Well, the first is be okay with being corrected. Obviously, if somebody's yelling and screaming at you, it's a different situation, but be okay with being corrected. Be okay
Yeah.
with, like, you've only been introduced to me as Kira, right? I prefer she, her. That's how you're addressing me. That's how you're speaking to me. That's step number one. Just because it's not a lot to ask, right? It's not a lot. Hey, I would like to be addressed this way. It's not a lot to ask, I don't think. So be prepared for people to make that request, right? This is how I wish to be addressed, and accommodate that request, because there's not a lot to it, I don't think. And be prepared, and be willing to be corrected, and be educated if you accidentally, and I would also say, like, if you make mistakes, please don't make a big deal of it, right? Like, we have this tendency on this society to, like, beat ourselves up when we make mistakes, right? Like, if you make a mistake and accidentally misgender somebody, just apologize and move on. Like, hey, I apologize, I'm sorry, and try to correct yourself and move forward. I think it's just, be willing to be educated, make sure your doors are open, right? Like, obviously there are federal laws and protections, like, just be willing to leave your door open, because trans people are going through a lot financially. Like a lot of us deal with situations where we either get told we can't have, we're kicked out of housing, or
Wait a minute.
yeah,
Kicked out of housing.
yeah.
How does that happen?
This particular apartment doesn't want trans people in it. Get out. No, you're not allowed to rent here. We don't want you here.
And then it's the same kind of a situation of
Mm-hmm. Well,
don't have
and yeah,
not be working. I mean, if a lawyer for $200 an hour, great, thanks.
yeah.
That's what I have to do. I get that. Yeah. Okay.
Usually it's easier just go to the media, go to the news, like go to the local news and start a big stink about it. And then usually people will, that's easier, because the news wants those stories, right? So might as well give them what they want. So, but yeah, that's the thing. Well, and it's not just that too, it's also family too. Again, I have a friend who came out to her dad and he said, get the hell out. You are not my child, and I want nothing to do with you, and I never will ever again. Goodbye.
How old was this person?
In their 30s, but there's a different situation there.
Okay, so maybe
Yeah.
they were living with the parent. Okay.
Yeah, they
But
were
it was
living
still
with the parents.
hurtful. Like, you always, I
Yeah.
mean, my parents are coming to visit me today, and like, how old am I now? Almost 44. And I still go, like, I want acceptance from my parents.
Yes.
I'll always want acceptance from my parents.
I'm 38 at the end of the year, and I still want my mom, right?
Right.
I do wish we would stop infantilizing family relationships like that. Like, you should only want a relationship with your parents until you're a teenager, and then, who cares? Plus, when you don't have the financial stability, even, like in certain situations where you have been out on your own, and then financial crisis or whatever, and then now you're living with your parents because where else are you going to go? But, I've had friends 16, 17, 18 get kicked out, get told, I don't want you here anymore, well, and friends of friends in a lot of those cases.
Children by the law.
Yeah. So
they
get out though.
What has the parent? Wow. So they have to go into foster care.
Well, that, or get emancipated, or,
Right.
get told to go live with another family member, or, like at you turn 18, you come out, you're not ready to move on yet because you're 18, and maybe you've not been prepared, and you come out and your parents are like, no, get out now. We don't want you in here, so it's a thing that happens, like, I think, again, for the financial advisor space, it's like, just be open, be welcoming, be willing to be corrected.
If you
be
have a
willing.
physical office,
Yeah.
what should financial advisors do if they have a physical office? How can they make that more trans friendly?
Um,
Have a bathroom,
yes. Number
or,
one, yeah,
but that, I mean, you would have to have a third bathroom, a
not
gender.
necessarily, right? If let me ask you a question. Outside of urinals, I've been inside of a lot of big buildings that aren't stores, for example, and the male bathroom and the female bathroom both just had toilets. What's the differentiation between why this bathroom is male and why that one's female if it's just toilets and sinks and they both have
Because
changing stations in them?
the people that use it, if it's a bathroom with stalls in it, like a multi-person
Yeah, but if
bathroom,
it's not,
if it's
if it's
not, then there's no difference,
right,
right?
if it's a single occupancy bathroom, what's the difference, right?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Okay, so the bathroom thing.
Just make
The-
accommodations for people. Try to as best you can.
Is
You know?
it, I mean, so what I do when I have a meeting with somebody I don't know
Mm,
is I give them this questionnaire when it's a prospect and I say, what do you want to talk about? What are you, like I do marketing, right? So I'm like,
mm,
what's your marketing goal numerically? And then at the end I say, are there any accommodations you would require? Because having a child with sensory issues and
mm,
all these, right? And I say, like, do you need closed captioning? Do you need certain, like, noise
mm.
canceling earphones, whatever? And I should ask, which pronouns would you prefer me to use?
Yeah, that's
I
a very
should
simple
ask,
thing. Yeah,
I should ask that question because,
yeah,
most of the time people say they don't need any accommodations, but this is absolutely an accommodation I should be
it
making.
is. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. It doesn't sound like it's putting like you as a financial advisor. It doesn't sound like just using the right name and pronouns and um being open-minded and being willing to maybe like if you have a physical office, just make it so that people can go to the bathroom and be left alone. Doesn't sound like a whole awful lot. It's not like we're asking you to like build a third bathroom in your office or anything, or do something that, could hurt you as the person or could hurt your company, right?
Right.
Yeah. To me, it's never really sounded like an awful lot, like, hey, I'm Kara. My pronouns are she, her. Just treat me like a normal human being. Not a lot to ask, you know?
Yeah.
Apparently, for some people, it is. So,
Right. So
Mm,
listen, this was a great interview. Kara, thank you so much.
thank you.
What are you doing now for work, if I could ask?
Currently unemployed, unfortunately.
Are you freelancing?
Trying to, yeah.
What kind of services do you offer?
Well, I am a trained and experienced community and media relations professional. So if you want somebody to engage with your social media platforms, I can do that on all social media platforms, including TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I can generate media for you on YouTube. I engage professionally with Twitch. I can run forums. I can build communities, design, develop contests. I've done some marketing and market analysis for whether or not a game is going to be viable going to market or not, engaging with customers, quality assurance and testing. I've done quite a lot of things over the last 10 years since I started working in the games industry. So if anybody's looking for a community manager, community and media relations manager, or communications director, or whatever, those are the things that I'm usually the best at doing, which, can relate from everything from quality assurance and testing to multimedia to social media outreach and engagement to, market analysis, things like that.
All right, and they can reach you on LinkedIn, and
Yes.
I'm gonna put Kira's LinkedIn in the show notes.
Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so
Oh,
I'm gonna end this. Kira, stay on after I
okay.
end this, okay? But everybody, I'm ending the show now. Thanks for tuning in. That's all we got for now, and we will see you the next time.